What's going on, guys? It's Fight Season MMA, and today I want to talk about the UFC press conference that happened last night. And Dricus Du Plessis really made Israel Adesanya cry at that press conference. That is absolutely insane. I just watched the video of what happened there because it happened when I was asleep, and absolutely insane for Dricus Du Plessis to go in there, start talking about Izzy's family, start bringing up all the past experiences that he's had with Sean Strickland and the dogs and whatnot. And if you haven't gone and know what I'm talking about, go look at that up yourself. I don't want to really talk about that. I just want to talk about the implications that this could have to the fight. But if you guys enjoyed the UFC content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to support the channel. Also, when you're down there, turn on the post notifications just so you guys don't miss a video because I upload daily, and this is daily free UFC content to stay updated with the news and media that's going around the UFC world. But let's jump right into the video of the breakdown of Dricus Du Plessis making Israel Adesanya cry and what this could mean for the possible fight coming up. So at the UFC 305 press conference, it was very early in the morning last night for Eastern time folks, and it was super entertaining to watch. I just watched a little bits and pieces of it, of the exchanges between Israel Adesanya and Dricus Du Plessis, and it showed me that Dricus Du Plessis hit some very soft spots in Israel Adesanya, maybe some chinks in his armor, and made that man cry. This might be the first time in UFC history that someone has cried over a trash talk at the UFC press conference, which is absolutely insane for me to say. When I woke up and I saw that on Twitter this morning, I was absolutely flabbergasted by Izzy talking all this smack and all that, but he was the one to cry ultimately. Now, the reason that happened is apparently Dricus Du Plessis hit a very soft spot on Israel Adesanya, talking about that he fights for nothing, that he's done with the sport, and that he has no aspirations and no motivation to fight for. When Israel Adesanya got very emotional, talking about how he fights for his family, of how he fights for his well-being, and of how he wants to make his dream come true. And that was ultimately the thing that made Israel Adesanya cry. Now, the face-off between these two men was absolutely crazy. The tension between these two individuals was crazy to see. Now, a lot of the people in Perth really do not like Dricus Du Plessis, and it's pretty evident to see that. But Israel Adesanya got a massive pop from the crowd, and I think that is going to be energy that Israel Adesanya can channel and can fuel into the fight Sunday morning in Perth, apparently, but Saturday evening for everyone else in the world. But how could this fight really, or how could this implication at the press conference really impact the fight for Israel Adesanya and Dricus Du Plessis? Now, Dricus Du Plessis really doesn't get anything out of this except for possible confidence, which I don't think he's going to take. I think Dricus Du Plessis is smart enough to understand that Israel Adesanya is a human being too. Some people can be very emotional. I think that this is a very emotion-packed fight for Israel Adesanya, a lot like more than any. If you talk about the fights with Alex Pereira, that was a very just business fight compared to the trilogy and whatnot. They fought so many times, but it has strictly been for business. This fight for Israel Adesanya is more than business because Dricus Du Plessis was talking about the Battle of Africa, how he's the first African champion in UFC history, and Israel Adesanya felt like he disrespected him, taking away all of his accolades and all that different type of stuff that he's achieved in the sport of UFC. And because he is a Nigerian, Israel Adesanya is, of how Dricus Du Plessis is a South African, of how he was saying that even though Israel Adesanya was the champion. Now, Dricus Du Plessis' point does make sense because he's talking about residing in Africa, training in Africa, being the belt from Africa. He is the quote-unquote African champ. He lives there. He trains in South Africa. His daily life revolves around South Africa, which is a point that Dricus Du Plessis made. But he was just talking about of how Israel Adesanya moved out of Nigeria, how he fought in China for a little bit, of how now he resides in Auckland, New Zealand. And the point was just that when Israel Adesanya was the title holder, yes, he was Nigerian, but he resided in somewhere that was not Africa. And that was the big point that Dricus Du Plessis wanted to hit on. But what could this interaction in the fight mean for Israel Adesanya? And there's absolutely two ways that this could go. One, this could be the absolute best Israel Adesanya that we see inside the UFC, and that is a very liable possibility. As we all know, Israel Adesanya is one of the greatest middleweights to ever do it. He has so many title defenses. It's absolutely crazy to see who he's beaten. He's beat Robert Whittaker twice, Marvin Vettori twice, Jared Cannonier, and a lot of these other fighters who I could go on and name, Yoel Romero, Kelvin Gastelum, so many different fighters in the UFC that he's beaten, which is makes for one of the greatest resumes in the sport currently. He's fought the best of the best in the middleweight division for such a long time. Now, Dricus Du Plessis has fought some people like Robert Whittaker, and he fought Sean Strickland in his last fight, but doesn't have the resume no near as Israel Adesanya. So I think that Israel Adesanya could take all of that experience and all of that knowledge to truly focus it in this emotion from this fight camp and this fight with Dricus Du Plessis, and channel it into one big, amazing masterclass at UFC 305. But the other thing that could possibly happen is Israel Adesanya is fighting with too much emotion, and he falls flat and lets Dricus Du Plessis get the better of him. There's a lot of different fighters. I know that Sean Brady, when he fought Bilal Muhammad, had a very, he said he was having nightmares before that fight, and he had a lot of emotion going into that fight. And if you know Sean Brady's resume, he has a lot of wins, but only one loss, and that came at the hands of Bilal Muhammad, because he was having all of these nightmares and all these dreams that he just didn't understand why he was so emotional, why he was so scared flying into Abu Dhabi at UFC 280, and ultimately those experiences got the best of him in that UFC fight. But someone like Israel Adesanya is going to have the exact same thing. He's going to have those voices telling him that Dricus Du Plessis is too good for him, and he's going to be having those feats telling him that what is he really fighting for, and he's going to have those alter egos inside of his head. But Israel Adesanya is going to have to power through that to get into the fight and beat Dricus Du Plessis, because this fight is going to be ride or die for Israel Adesanya, and 100% I could see Israel Adesanya falling flat in this fight just because of how emotional he is. But out of the two options, what do I really think is going to happen? I really do think that this is going to bring the best out of Israel Adesanya, and I think that that is something that is going to be absolutely amazing to see in this fight. I originally predict Dricus Du Plessis to win, and if you want to see that video, I'll link it right here where I talked about my official predictions and breakdowns. But I do think that Dricus Du Plessis has the advantage over Israel Adesanya, but I do think that that extra power and that extra will and that extra motivation from Israel Adesanya, making this fight more than just a fight, making it genuinely personal. And I think Israel Adesanya is going in there now to genuinely want to hurt Dricus Du Plessis, and that only makes the fight more exciting for the fans. It only makes a more exciting fight for everyone involved. You know, it's going to make a very, very fun fight to watch, especially since Israel Adesanya is taking some time off. He wants to gain that crown again, and Israel Adesanya, as we all know, is a mythical beast when he is a contender. Looking at that fight with Robert Whittaker, looking at that fight with Kelvin Gastelum, and looking at that second fight with Alex Pereira in the UFC, Israel Adesanya has all the chances to come and win this title. He is super dangerous and still got every single moment in the UFC octagon, but this battle is not against Dricus Du Plessis anymore. I think Israel Adesanya's fight is with himself getting into the octagon, and that will determine how he performs on Sunday morning or Saturday night, depending on where you live. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comments section of Israel Adesanya crying at the UFC 305 press conference. I think that this could be a massive thing for both fighters, possibly for Israel Adesanya. It's going to dawn mostly on Izzy, but it could benefit Dricus more. It's either going to be Israel Adesanya thinking that he's not good enough going into the octagon. There's a lot of pressure on him. There's a lot of emotion, and that's going to overcome him. But what I think is going to happen is it's going to bring the best out of Izzy Adesanya and really allow him to flourish inside that UFC octagon. As he said, he feels at home in there in his embedded episodes. He loves feeling the cage upon his back. He loves seeing the shape, and that is truly his life and his way he makes money and the way he is successful in who he is as a person. But if you guys enjoy the UFC content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to support the channel. While you're down there, turn on the post notifications. It is absolutely essential so you guys do not miss any videos coming out, because I drop daily UFC content, and truly you guys do not want to miss the content like that. But please go down there and do that, and please help us reach 1,000 subscribers. That would be absolutely amazing for us to achieve our dream here on the UFC Fight Season MMA channel. But thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.